to the channel. Today's video is going to be on doing a compression test on this 2001 Honda Accord. I got this vehicle a week ago or so, picked it up for like 300 bucks. I believe there's a head gasket issue, and one of the cylinders I believe is going to have low compression. I believe it's this cylinder right here, but we're going to find out. I'm going to show you exactly all the tools I'm using, and I will go through every step. So hopefully you can learn something and do this if you're having questions on how to do a compression test. So here we go. Alrighty, first thing you're going to need to do is going to be to take the spark plug wires out, and then you'll be able to access the spark plug. The tool I'm using for my particular car that I'm working on, it's a 5/8, and this one's specialty has a rubber grommet in there to pull the spark plug out. This hose here is an adapter, and you've got your compression tester gauge here, but the first step is to screw this in to your cylinders, and there should be, if you have one of these, there will be a little rubber gasket to make sure that it seals off all the air when you're cranking it, in a little extension hose. Pop this down in there and just screw it on until it gets tight all the way, cinched down. And that is pretty much all you got to do. Then you connect the gauge to it, and on more modern vehicles, you will have, well, you won't have a distributor, you will have coil pack. So for this, all we're going to do, because we don't want the motor to start up, we just want the motor to crank. So we're going to unplug the distributor right here, so no spark is going to get to the other spark plugs. So once you have everything hooked in, this is what it should look like. You'll have your compression, your PSI reading right here. A good rule of thumb I use is like 4 seconds to hold the ignition key down. About 4 seconds, give it time to build up some pressure in the cylinder. And 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. I'm not sure if I have a leak in here or if the head gasket is completely shot, or if there's a head issue. I'm not sure. Yeah, so I'm gonna go check a few things out. That's the cylinder that I believe is like not even really functioning at all. So I'm a little suspicious of this right now, but I'm gonna go ahead and hop over to the other cylinders.
Also, when you're changing or cut.
Also, when you're taking out these spark plugs, keep track of which one is coming out of which cylinder. The spark plug can tell you a lot if you know that cylinder is operating correctly, or you know, if it's not. Spark plugs can tell you a lot. My gut feeling is that the cylinder itself in this cylinder here has an issue, because I mean, it should have been building pressure, and we'll figure out if there was something wrong or not when we do this one. So I'm gonna try to leave this here so you guys can actually see the gauge. Keep an eye on that gauge as I crank, and you'll be able to you know, see that gauge go up. Alright, so that's what more like what you should see. Right there, it is about 155 PSI for that cylinder. Now, depending on what car you're you know, doing the compression test on will depend on what your PSI pressure is supposed to be. So what I like to do is I like to keep track on a piece of paper what cylinder is doing what. It just helps so you don't have any question, especially when you're, you know, modifying motors. You know, it can get confusing when you're, you know, doing a whole bunch of other stuff. But let me see, find a pin here, and that one, number 2. So I have it written down like this, from left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So technically speaking, the cylinders are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. So don't let that confuse you guys. I know I have my own way. It could be because I'm left-handed and I like to work left to right. I don't know. But for my purposes, that's what on the paper I have it from left to right. But the actual cylinders are 1, 2, 3, and 4. So don't get confused with that. Number 2 was 155, and number 1 was 0 at this point. I will end up running back over. I'm gonna run back over them, but here you go. And then to get the pressure out, all you're going to do, you know, release the pressure. You want to start back at 0 for when you do your next cylinder. So now that you know how to connect everything, I'm gonna set you down here and go through the rest of these. And this one, if you can see, is also around 156-ish. So that one is reading about the same as the second one. Okay, and this one, if you can see that, is reading about 190. There shouldn't be that big a difference between cylinders. You know, there's definitely some issue going on. I don't know the history behind this vehicle as far as how they took care of the vehicle, you know, if they, you know, starved it of oil, you know, I don't have that history. All right, so I still don't have any compression in this number 1 cylinder. So that's not good news. This head's definitely got to come off. We've got some kind of issue. I mean, it could be a bent valve. It could be something like that. Regardless, I believe the compression on the other cylinders, having 155, 156, and then 190, it's not a good sign. So something is off for sure. The fact that one cylinder is you know, 190 or so, 189, somewhere in there, leads me to believe that it's not rings. I'll tell you why, is just because the fact that one is that way. Typically when rings go, they go together. Typically if you've got two, you know, more than one cylinder low, typically that's a head gasket. Not always, but typically. And then for sure when you have one reading 0, that to me is an indication of, you know, an exhaust valve most likely, or you know, something like that. That's kind of my diagnosis of this motor as it sits right now. But stay tuned with me. I will be going over everything, all that has to be done to fix this motor. And I know you guys, it's not a motor, it's an engine. Yeah. And if you found any of this useful or helpful for you, like and subscribe. I'm out.